Manx Radio Sport.
Hello and welcome to Saturday Sports Classified here on Manx Radio AM 1368, the results, reaction and analysis of all the sporting action that's been taking place across the Isle of Man throughout today. First and foremost though, let's now bring you the classified results from today, Saturday the 11th of January 2025, starting with football. The Canada Life Men's Premier League. St Mary's 4, St John's United 4. Russian United 0, Ramsey 1. Foxdale vs Laxey postponed due to an unfit pitch. Union Mills 1, Onchan 1. Corinthians 4, Ayr United 3. Peel 3, St George's 0. Arderne and Druggan Limited Division 2. Colby 10, Douglas and District 2. Castletown vs Douglas Royal postponed due to an unfit pitch. Michael United 3, Governors Athletics 7. Braddon 6, Douglas High School Old Boys 3. Canada Life Combination 1. St John's United 2, St Mary's 2. Ramsey vs Russian United postponed due to an unfit pitch. Laxey vs Foxdale postponed due to an unfit pitch. Onchan vs Union Mills postponed due to an unfit pitch. Ayr United 3, Corinthians 4. Arderne and Druggan Limited Combination 2. Douglas and District vs Colby postponed due to an unfit pitch. Pulrose United vs Douglas Athletic postponed due to an unfit pitch. Douglas Royal 2, Castletown 1. Governors Athletic 11, Michael United 2. Douglas High School Old Boys vs Braddon postponed due to an unfit pitch. Turning now to rugby. In Regional 2 Northwest. Douglas 0, Sandbach 17. Counties 3 ADM Lancashire Cheshire. Vagabonds 26, Orrell 16. And in the Isle of Man friendly, Ramsey 31, Southern Nomads 34. Turning now to hockey. The Men's Premier League. Vikings A 3, Castletown 0. Valkyries A 5, Valkyries B 0. Backers A 9, Harlequins A 1. The Ladies Premier League. Backers A 4, Harlequins A 2. Ramsey A vs Valkyries A postponed due to a waterlogged pitch. Vikings A 0, Castletown A 4. Men's Division 1. Ramsey A vs Vikings B postponed due to a waterlogged pitch. Backers C 2, Castletown B 12. Harlequins B 0, Backers B 7. In Ladies Division 1. Castletown D 0, Castletown B 6. Backers B 1, Valkyries B 2. Castletown C vs Vikings B awaiting result. In Men's Division 2. Backers Colts 1, Valkyries C 6. Viking C vs Castletown C is a late result. Ladies Division 2. Ramsey B vs Valkyries B C postponed due to a waterlogged pitch. Vikings C 9, Castletown E 0. Backers C 6, Harlequins B 1. The Mixed Under-15s League. Valkyries vs Harlequins awaiting result. Ramsey Rogues and Rascals vs Backers postponed due to a waterlogged pitch. And Vikings vs Castletown Sabres awaiting result. And we've just had an update with regards to the Under-15s League match between Valkyries and Harlequins. Valkyries 4, Harlequins 1. Those are your classified sporting results for the Isle of Man for today, Saturday, the 11th of January, 2025. So let's turn our attention to the footballing side of things first and bring in our football correspondent, Tony Mepham. Well, Tony, before we get into the results, I think we all waited with bated breath last night on Friday Sport Preview as to whether we'd be seeing games go ahead, with hopes that the weather was passing, but wondering if it would pass quickly enough. But by and large, most of the schedule has gone ahead today.
Yeah, we've done well. I think a couple of clubs who have played have got a bit of repair work to do to their grounds. But yeah, definitely. I think certainly last night the pitches were very hard. I walked Ballafletcher this morning about 7:30 and it was rock solid. By 11 o'clock it was clear and you could get the game on. So well done to all the ground staff and everyone around the island who managed to get the pitches fit and playable. I think Russians is looking a little bit ill. Saw a picture of it just before lunchtime and it looked fantastic, but cut up a little bit as the moisture rose to the top and slide tackles were going in, and unfortunately a little bit of damage there, but they'll sort it out.
Indeed, let's dive straight into the results then. Start with the Canada Life Men's Premier League. We'll start chronologically with the early kick-off. St Mary's up against St John's United. That was a 1:45pm kick-off. All of the games today kicking off at 2pm. And St Mary's, Tony, on Friday Sport Preview last night, we remarked, I guess, at just how subtly St Mary's have started to creep their way towards the top four, passing the likes of Foxdale and Laxey in recent weeks up against a St John's United team that caused a bit of a late scare, shall we say, for Russian United in the ECAP FA Cup, but couldn't get it over the line. The Southerners progressed. But today's game, St Mary's St John's United, cracking game here, an 8-goal thriller, 4 apiece.
Yeah, belter, and I'm waiting to see Sam Brown's write-up. It usually comes in about 8:30, 8:45 after he's had a meal, but today, from all accounts, it was St Mary's were 4-1 up at one stage, so tremendous first half, and Sammy Gellam with the goal, Mark Wolfenden, Chris Asbridge and Carl Clark was the other goal scorer, but certainly in the second half, St John's got it together, and well done to the management team in getting it right, and that man, Luke Murray, got a hat-trick, well done to him, and Liam Bull, his striking partner, and probably by the end of Monday, because I work with Liam, it'll probably be a 40-yarder volley from him, but there's probably a little tap in, one of his usual ones, but good result for St John's to fight back in that one, and as I say with St Mary's, when you look at the league table, in fourth place, they played a game less than Corinthians and Peel, and they sit on 26 points, and just to give you an idea where Peel are at the top of the table, they played 15 on 37, so if they are going to contend for the Premier League, they're going to have to sort of pull their socks up and really work hard on it, but a good result for St John's, and St Mary's disappointed with letting it slip.
And that might have an effect on how things go toward the top of the table when we look at one of the other results in just a little bit as well, with the teams just above them. In the meantime, we'll go to Croyt Lowry and Russian United and Ramsey, two teams that Russian with their stronger record over a longer period of time over the last few years. Ramsey impressed during last season. Both of them still to results-wise, maybe kick on as they may have hoped with the high standards both clubs have. Russian United, though, losing out at home to Ramsey this time. Just the one goal in it, Ramsey winning by a goal to nil. Yeah,
and I believe it was a mistake by the goalkeeper. I'm not 100% sure who was in goal. I haven't got the goal scorer for Ramsey neither, but certainly with Russian, they feel a little bit hard done by. Losing out 1-0, they thought they deserved a little bit more from it. But as I said before, the pitch cut up a little bit, so it made the game hard going. Made it tough to play football on it, but at the end of the day it's Ramsey who take the 3 points. It sort of lifts them up nicely. They're on 24 points now, so they go ahead of Union Mills, they go ahead of Foxdale as well, so it's been a good day all round for Ramsey.
Indeed, Foxdale versus Laxey, that game was postponed today at Billygoat Park due to an unfit pitch. Elsewhere at Gary Moore, Union Mills, who put 9 past Moran in the ECAP FA Cup last weekend to progress, coming up against an Onken side that were beaten heavily on home turf in the same competition by Ayr United 7 days ago. Onken looking to try and move themselves away from that relegation battle that's currently going on. Honours even here, Tony. Union Mills 1, Onken 1. Who do you think will be the happier with that result?
I would say probably Onken, to be honest with you, because when you look at the league table, Onken are third from bottom. They play 15 games now, and these sides play 24, so 9 games left to play for Onken. They're on 11 points. They're 3 points behind Russian, but more importantly, they're 3 points ahead of St George's. So it could be a big point at the end of the season for them, Rob. But Jack Murray it was, and congratulations to Jack on winning player of the round in the ECAP FA Cup games last week. He scored after 10 minutes, so 5 goals in 2 games for him. But Andy Asperger it was who proved the important player for Onchan. He scored the goal in the second half and it finished up Union Mills 1, Onchan 1.
And over at Bella Fletcher, a big game towards the top of the table. It saw third place side hosting second place this afternoon. So Corinthians in third, 3 points behind their visitors. Ayr United had the chance to go level on points with them if they were to win today. But coming up against an Ayr United side, the defending champions, of course, and undefeated going into this weekend in the league with 9 wins and 4 draws from their opening 13 games. Ayr United 3 points behind Peel going into this weekend's ties and with a game in hand as well. But it's all changed with those regards in terms of Ayr United's record, because it's their first league defeat of the season. They've been beaten by Corinthians by 4 goals to 3. Tony, that takes Corinthians level on points with Ayr United, only behind by virtue of goal difference. Yeah, and the goal difference, not too much in it. I think there might be 4 in it. But today, start the show, and you can understand it really, to be honest with you. Allowed to play for Corinthians today, and that's Sean Doyle. He got a hat-trick. It was Declan Blake, one of the promising young players coming through the Corinthians youth system, got the other one. It was a real good performance, I think, in that sort of first period by Corinthians. But then Ayr United got a couple of goals back later on. Harry Best got the first one for Ayr United. Sean Kelly got the second. And Leo Gertha got the third one. So a little bit of a squeaky bum time for Corinthians towards the end. But the important thing for them is those 3 points, because they're really punching above their weight, because there's a lot of good young players in there. Good performances today. Ronan McDonald was in the team as well for Corinthians. Made them a lot stronger, and a big 3 points for Corinthians. Indeed, and the setback for Ayr United meant that Peel, when they faced St George's today, had the chance to extend their advantage at the top of the Canada Life Men's Premier League in their current pursuit of the title. They've managed to do that, so they go 6 points clear at the top to the Westerners. Peel, they've beaten St George's by 3 goals to 0. Yeah, and a good result that for Peel, and once again Thomas Brown is the main star of the show. He got 2 of the goals, one on 40 minutes, one on 82. And when you look at Paul Whitehead, got the second goal before Thomas got his second of the game on 80. So 10 minutes to go, Peel were only leading 1-0 against St George's. So good performance by them. That's Thomas Brown's 30th goal of the season, and it's his 100th goal for Peel in a short career on that one. So well done to him. Just shows you what sort of form he's in at the moment, because he really is a good player, 21 years of age, and showed again. And if Peel do win this league at the end of the season, Rob, I think there's a lot of thank yous got to be done to Thomas Brown, because at the moment he's the boy that's winning the points for them. Okay, before we look at Division 2, Tony, so just give us a bit of an overview as to what that does, these results today for the Premier League table. Certainly can, and Peel have played 15 for 37. Ayr United in second place played 14 for 31. Just below them is Corinthians, played 15 for 31. Then we've got St Mary's, who've played 14 for 26. Then one team on 25, and that's Laxey, who didn't play today. Then moving up a couple of jumps is Ramsey, who played 16 for 24. Then you've got Union Mills with that 1 point, 17 for 23. And then you've got Foxdale, played 13 for 22. So a few games in hand there for Foxdale. Then St John's with that point today, they played 14 for 15. And then when you look at the 3 just below them, and that's the one that everyone's looking at, it's Onchan played 15 for 11. St George's played 14 for 8. And at the foot of the table, and only sort of clinging in there is Marown. 3 points on the board for 15 games played. Very well. Ardern and Drug Limited Division 2 then, arguably one of the biggest games of the day in this division, taking place earlier today. We'll get to that in a moment. We'll start, however, in the south of the island at Station Fields. Colby still looking to keep their place and contention in for the top 4 spots in Division 2 as it stands at the moment, up against Douglas and District, still without a win this season in the league. And Colby dispatching Douglas and District today in some style today, Tony, beating them by 10 goals to 2. Certainly did, and on my maths, they're putting a lot of pressure on Castletown now, because they've joined them on 22 points apiece now. But Carl Hickey, really good player, Rob. He's strong, he scores plenty of goals, and Steve Collister, touched on it before, playing in goal last year for St Mary's and playing outfield at the moment. He got a couple. Tom Walton got one. Paul Whitley on the score sheet.
as well, and it was Nick Clegg, I think, who got one, and not too sure who got the other goal, but Adam Pate took one away as well. But when you look at this game, Rob, D&D were 2 up, so to lose 10-2, an absolute collapse job there. Dan Robson got one of the goals for D&D, and Lewis Qualtrough got the other one. So I don't know what happened. Great start, but poor finish. But Colby keep the pressure on the 3 teams just above them, and that's Braddon, Douglas High School Old Boys, or 4 teams, Ramsey Youth Centre and Castletown. So if they can keep it going, they're in with a chance.
And speaking of Castletown, you mentioned there, they didn't play today. Their game against Douglas Royal, that was postponed down at the Castletown Stadium due to an unfit pitch. Elsewhere, Michael United up against Governors Athletic. Michael United getting 3 on the board, but Governors Athletic, Tony, they were free scoring last weekend in that 8-0 win over Malou in the ECAP FA Cup, and they've managed to do something very similar again today, beating Michael United at Michael United by 7-3. The goals are flowing at the moment for Governors Athletic.
15 in 2 games, and that's pretty sharp for Governors Athletic, because they don't really score that many, but at the moment they are. Nathan Farragher with one for Michael United. Owen Hurt got 2 of the goals, but for Governors Athletic it was David Kay with 3, Santiago Caxo, I think it is, with a goal, Josh Dunn, Fabio Capato got one, and Tolini Akanula got the other one. So good performance that by Governors. They're absolutely flying. I know when those 3 points on the board there, they go above Malou now, so they're 3rd from bottom. I don't mean that in a horrible way. They played 13, 12 it is now for those points. So good performance all round, and hopefully it'll continue.
Indeed, and last but certainly not least in our Durham Drug Unlimited Division 2 today was a game that many will have been keeping their eyes on, because the 2 current Division 2 title contenders meeting at Victoria Road this afternoon. Tabletoppers Braddon were 3 points clear of Douglas High School Old Boys going into today's game. Old Boys with 2 games in hand as well, and some wondering just how pivotal this game could potentially be in the Division 2 title race heading into the latter part of the season. Tony, it's all about the goals, all about the drama. It's lived up to the hype you gave it on Friday Sport Preview last night. Braddon winning this by 6-3.
Yeah, and to be fair, Old Boys threw it all away, because Braddon did so well at the start, because Mark O'Neill got the first one to give them a 1-0 lead, and Nathan Farragher, the goalkeeper for Douglas High School Old Boys, pulled off some absolutely fantastic saves. And I keep saying it, he's not the tallest of goalkeepers, but my word, he knows where to be at the right place at the right time, and he pulled off some super saves. But he couldn't do much about Danny Cowan's equaliser to make it 1-1, and then Danny scored from the penalty spot, I think it was, to make it 2-1. But Nick Harvey scored a really good goal down the bottom corner, bit of space for him, managed to squeeze it past the keeper to make it 2-2, and you just thought it's all to play for. But then George Kearns with an absolute belter to make it 3-2, and advantage back to Douglas High School Old Boys. Then the destruct button was set by Douglas High School Old Boys, and it happened so many times for them over the last 3 or 4 seasons when they need all the players on the park. They lost Martin King. He got a second bookable offence. I don't know what it was for, commenting to the referee, I'm not too sure. And then Duncan Raid made it 3-3. Good tricky goal by him, put it in the net. And then once again, Old Boys had another player sent off. I think it was George Nick Kearns this time, who just picked the ball up and threw it at Dan Kinraid. I don't know why he did it. And the referee, I thought, was really good today. Jim Gale had no choice. He had to give them the red card, and they were down to 9 then, and that just invited Braddon to come on them. And it was Mark O'Neill who made it 4-3, and then Dean France just at the back tried to defend it. He couldn't stop it, and put it in his own goal to make it 5-3. And then Andy Marshall hit one at the end to make it 6-3. Good game. Just a shame that Old Boys just let it go, because it was nip and tuck all the way and it could have been theirs. But the delight from the Braddon faithful was great to see. And when you look at the league table now, Rob, that makes Braddon played 14 for 35 and Old Boys played 12 for 29. So, they got those sort of 6 points out of those 2 games in hand, but they're going to lose 2 of their top players now for whatever offences it is. We'll wait and see how many games they get, and they're just giving it away themselves.
And just on your point there about the league standings there, yes, Braddon going 6 points clear. Douglas High School Old Boys defeat today, and like you say, will lose 2 players to suspension. They do have those 2 games in hand still to be played, but from this point onwards, with how tight it's been in between those top 2, how important is it that Old Boys, can they afford to slip up again?
I don't think they can because, Braddon looked good value. Liam Kane, as we know, is there and can score plenty of goals. But I just don't understand them because it's in Old Boys' hand. Even if they lost today, as long as you sort of keep your 11 players on it, that scoreline wouldn't have been like it is. It helps Braddon's goal difference because it's far superior than Douglas High School Old Boys. But it's the quality of players, when you look at Martin King, superb at the back for them. They've lost him now. And it's just, I can't understand it. They've worked so hard to get to the stage of the season halfway through in the position that they are. And today it crumbled.
And from Braddon's perspective, we must talk about Braddon, the fact that they have scored 6 goals and taken all 3 points. I mean, what will that do for them, do you think, psychologically? Still a long way in the season to go, but to get one over on your title rivals at this point. And Braddon, of course, they were relegated from the top flight last season, currently very much on track to respond in the most positive manner, top of the table, and with that gap now to Old Boys in second. Yeah,
and when you look at the goal difference between third placed Ramsey Youth Centre and Old Boys, there's 6 points. And that's with Douglas High School Old Boys game in hand on them as well. But it'll give them a massive lift. I'm sure Will Smith will enjoy tonight. He'll have a beer or 2 to celebrate that one. Because what you got to do is if you want to win the league and you've got someone who's chasing your tail, you've got to try and take the points off them when you play them. And that's what Braddon have done. Credit to them. And it's just funny, isn't it, where you've got Braddon and Old Boys, bit of a yo-yo team. They go up and then struggle and then come down again. But 2 teams littered with good players. Duncan Raid on that left-hand side was always tricky, and just right the way through, Braddon worked hard, but so did Old Boys. And it's Braddon who just kept their composure, stopped any sort of needle stuff going on, because of not bad challenges, but 1 or 2 challenges going in. But credit to Jim Gale. I thought he did really well controlling that game. He's a new official in the system, and he's progressing at a rate that is pretty impressive, to be fair, and credit to him.
Well, just before we move on, just a reminder for those listening, if you are looking to tune into Radio Caroline, that is continuing right now online at www.radiocaroline.co.uk. And at the conclusion of this programme, we will, here on AM 1360, be rejoining Radio Caroline. So that coming up in just over half an hour's time or thereabouts. So, Tony, before we look at the combination leagues, we've already mentioned the top 2 and the situation with them in the table. What does it look like everywhere else in Division 2? Yeah,
just below, there wasn't many games on today, but when you look at Ramsey Youth Centre, have now played or only played 13 for 23. You've got Castletown 13 for 22. Colby now with that big result today have played 12 for 22. When you look at Pulrose, have played 12 for 16 points. Douglas Royal have played 13 for 16. Mark United have played 14 for 14. Maloo 10 games only for 7 points. Governors Athletic have played 12 for 8. And then you've got Douglas and District at the bottom of the table there, played 13 for 2. So it is looking like a 2-horse race at the top. These teams only play 20, Rob. So you look at Braddon, played 14, 6 to go. Old Boys have got 8 to go. So, they've got to keep winning. And with the Woods Cup on next week, most of the games that were scheduled at the start of the season have been postponed. So they'll go into the system for rearranged. But it's quite tight. But Ramsey Youth Centre, Castletown and Colby, I'm sure, want to get involved in that promotion race as well.
Just before we move into the combination leagues, just taking a look, we've had just one more result coming through in terms of the hockey side of things. It's in the mixed under-15s league, one of the later pushbacks at 3:35. It has finished Vikings 5, Castletown Sabres 2. Don't forget as well, if you want to listen to all the reaction and analysis to today's hockey results, we'll be chatting with our hockey correspondent Ben Cunningham later in the programme. Turning to Canada Life Combination 1, just 2 of the 5 scheduled games took place today, the other 3 postponed. We'll start off between St John's United and St Mary's. The 2 first teams of these clubs drew 4-4 in the Premier League earlier today as well. And it's finished all square between the combi sides, 2-2 this time.
Yeah, it was a hard one to predict this one, but I think I went for St Mary's just to win it. Chris Dowling with 1, Jake Wilson got the other one. Lewis Daly got a goal for St John's, and Liam Sale, who must be their top goal scorer, he got the other one. So it finished up St John's 2, St Mary's 2.
And looking at the postponed games, one of the crucial ones toward the top today was Ramsey against Russian United. Ramsey, the defending champions, up against Russian United, the previous champions before that. Both of them trying to chase down Onken at the top. The game between Ramsey and Russian United postponed at the Balaclone Stadium due to an unfit pitch. As was Laxey versus Foxdale at Glen Road. That was also called off for the same reason. The pitch not in the right condition. And top of Canada Life combination one at the moment, Onken. What a season they're having. Well, they've not been able to get any points on the board today, and that's because their game at home to Union Mills also postponed due to an unfit pitch. Elsewhere, up at Andrews playing field, saw Ayr United play Corinthians, and the same scoreline, Tony, as between the first teams. Corinthians winning this 4-3.
Yeah, good result for Corinthians. Not too sure who got Ayer's goals, but for Corinthians, Ryan Nelson scores yet again. I think that's a third combination game he scored in. Lewis Radcliffe on the score sheet as well, Connor Bell and Chester Bell with the other one. So a good all-round performance by Corinthians. They stay fifth in the league, but they've sort of just closed the gap a little bit on St John's, with them sharing the points against St Mary's.
And again, we'll just take a quick look at the table, Tony. So Canada Life combination one, although we did only have a couple of games going ahead today, what kind of changes have we seen, if any? Not
a lot with the top two anyway, because Onken have played 13 for 36, Russian have played 14 for 36, and Ramsey have played 12 for 28. St John's have played 16 for 26, Corinthians have played 16 for 26, and then St Mary's with that point, they've played 15 and go on 22 points now. Ayr United have played 14 for 21. Peel 14 for 15. Brown have played 15 games for 13 points. And then when you look at the bottom three, Union Mills have played 13 for 9. Laxey 14 for 8. And at the bottom of the table there is Foxdale, who have played 12 games for just that sole 1 point.
And last but certainly not least, Ardern and Drug Unlimited Combination 2 today. Again, similar story to Canada Life Combination 1. Just 2 of the 5 games going ahead today, the other 3 postponements. We'll start with what happened over at Ballafletcher. Douglas Royal just narrowly edging out Castletown here, Tony, by 2-1.
Yeah, they did, and it was a tight game. Finn Mulligan, I think it was, got the goal for Castletown. Haven't got Douglas Royal's goal scorers, but it is 3 points for them. A little bit of a blend of youth and experience, I think, when I saw the team going out. Douglas Royal have now sort of moved into that position of 10th, I think it is. Yes, the goal difference just a little bit less, I think, than Pulrose. But Castletown bringing a lot of good young players through. They're still in a comfortable position of 5th in this league. But a point or points dropped by Castletown, which will probably annoy them a little bit because it was that close.
And in the other game that did take place, well, Governors Athletic, not just the first team, I think the club as a whole really does have their shooting boots on in training at the moment, because Governors Athletic up against Michael United, of course, a very changed Michael United combination side with the changes that have undergone, have taken place, I should say, at the club in previous months this season. Governors Athletic hitting 11 past Michael United, who managed 2 in response. Yeah,
that's a good result, and I feel for Michael. It's not their doing, but Tom McDade got one, Danny Hutton got the other one, but Rob Bell rolling back the years with 3 of the goals, and then I think it was Tufek Arakbani, I think it is, who got 2. Ben Schoen got 2 goals. Kevin Farragher, Martin Butler, Tom McNee and Adji Johnson got the other one. So pretty impressive the way Governors are going at the moment. So I would say, looking at it, Rob, maybe they've got a striking coach in there who has just turned the sort of doors for them, because 8 last week in the cup games, 7 for the first team, that's 15 and 2, and Governors here 11 today. Enjoy, boys, enjoy it.
And just a reminder of the 3 games that were postponed in our Ardern and Drug Unlimited Combination 2 today. Douglas and District versus Colby, Pulrose United versus Douglas Athletic, and Douglas High School Old Boys versus Brad. And all 3 of those games postponed today due to unfit pitches. So yeah, Tony, finally before we move on, Ardern and Drug Unlimited Combination 2, any changes in the table there?
Not really, because, again, the league leaders at the top, you're having a look at that one, which is Colby, and you're just saying, well, wow, there's going to have to be some collapse for Colby to lose out on this at the moment, because they're leading by 8 points, and Ramsey Centre and Old Boys have played the same games as Colby. But then when you look at Douglas High School, Old Boys have played 12 for 28, Bradner played 13 for 26, then that Castletown team have played 16 now for 21, Douglas and District 15 for 19, Governors Athletic have played 14 for 21, so they go above D&D. You've got Douglas Athletic there on 14 for 17. Pulrose 13 games for 16 points. Douglas Royal played 14 games now and add 3 onto the 13, so that puts them on 16. Michael United played 16 games for 9 points, and Gymnasium at the bottom of the table, who played 13 fixtures with 7 points on the board.
And finally, Tony, before we let you go, obviously those are the results we've gotten from the games. We've got the majority of the schedule going ahead, despite maybe some concerns last night as to whether things would improve in time or not. But we have seen 8 games in total postponed across the men's senior divisions today. So in terms of postponements in general at the moment, how is the FA coping?
We're really in a good place, to be honest with you, Rob. You wouldn't have thought it, because when you look at it up to the end of November, I hardly had any. You know, we had that brilliant autumn where the weather was good and the pitches were good. We've had this wet weather, which the pitches aren't getting a chance to dry out at all. We could do with a bit of wind kicking around and keep the dry weather. But they just go into the system. We know it happens every year. And they go in, and then the night games come through. We've got the FA Cup first round or prelim round that's been played. So that means that some maybe Division 2 sides and Premiership sides will be able to have rearranged fixtures on the 8th of February when the first round is on. So it's not panic. Next week we have the Woods Cup. They're the ones that I look at. You need them to be played, because if they don't get played, I'm not saying they play the games the following week, but they need to be played to get the rounds going in the next stages of the competition. So yeah, we've just hopefully a bit of better weather is coming through. But today, well done to the forecasters. They got it absolutely spot on. They said be patient, sit there and just let things thaw out. We did. Unfortunately, 1 or 2 clubs have been caught out with that, with the damage to the pitch. But in general, I think to get 8 games on is a success.
Tony Mepham, thank you very much indeed.
Manx Radio Sport.
Well, it was a similarly positive story when we wondered what was going to be happening with today's Isle of Man rugby fixtures. We found out that this morning pitches were playable and we were all set to go. 2 of the Isle of Man sides in competitive action today, both on Island. Douglas back in Regional 2 Northwest action with a daunting task on paper at least up against the Regional 2 Northwest League leaders Sandbach. Elsewhere, Vagabonds, their first game of 2025 after their first game of the calendar year was postponed last week at Ashton-under-Lyne, back at Balafletcher this weekend to face fellow league strugglers Orrell this afternoon. Well, keeping an eye across everything today was our rugby correspondent Dave Christian, as always, and Dave joins us right now. So Dave, first of all, in terms of both Douglas and Vagabonds, could you just let us know how the day unfolded?
Clearly not very well, Rob, certainly for Douglas. You have to put things into perspective, I think. They lost that away fixture 50 points to 21. A 17-0 defeat at Portishead isn't the end of the world. Sandbach were very well drilled and professionally outlooking side, and I don't think there's too much more Douglas could have done. With a 50-21 away, 17-0 home clearly shows that the team's developing, but just not enough in the tank today to beat a side as well drilled as Sandbach. It was the only game to take place in Regional 2 Northwest, so Sandbach have extended their lead at the top of the table. They're now 4 points clear, but they've played 3 more games than their nearest rivals. For Douglas, a big one next week. So rather than look back, we'll look forward. They're travelling to Altrincham Kersal for a mid-table clash. Kersal are in 7th place, just 1 point above Douglas in the standings. Douglas had a big win against them at Portishead, so I've got to back them to pick up some points on the road, which will be their first away points this season next Saturday. A different story at Vagabonds, though. Very chilly Balafletcher this afternoon. And Vagabonds won 26-16 in the end with a dominant second half performance after they trailed 16-5 at the break. Orrell made a flying start. There were 2 early penalties from Craig Thomas before 2 tries in the 14th and 17th minute, 2 tries virtually back-to-back. Dan Huxley with the first, when Vagabonds tried to run the ball out of their own defence. It was fumbled and Huxley scooped it up and went over the line to score. The second try for Joe Hamilton, the big second row, that wasn't a fluke. Orrell had put on a lot of pressure on Vagabonds in midfield, recycled the ball a couple of times, and finally some quick ball got out to the back line. And the big second row, Joe Hamilton, was lurking out there, and there was no stopping him once he got going. From the restart, Tom Gascoigne, who for me was the man of the match, he grabbed the restart ball and took it deep into Orrell territory. And from that point onwards, it was only going one way. Vagabonds kept it tight in the forwards. They pounded the Orrell line, and finally it was prop forward Mitch Wells who went over the line. That made it 16-5 at half-time, and even then you weren't sure. Orrell were looking very aggressive in the tackle and running very good straight lines, but there was no stopping Vagabonds. There was a little bit of a breeze behind them in the second half. Dan Bonwick and Cam Finley were both rifling the ball deep into the Orrell half, and it was Tom Gascoigne, again, I mentioned that name, he went in for their second try, and things were looking up then. Very, very positive stuff going forward from Vagabonds, and he was quickly followed in by, right wing Nathan Wiley for the third. At this stage, Cam Finley had converted both of those tries. Vagabonds are in front, and Orrell not really sure what to do next, and they gave the ball away, and with 2 minutes remaining, John Riley secured the fourth try, which gives Vagabonds a bonus point this afternoon. Finley converted that one, and with only 2 minutes left, Vagabonds were far too far in front to be caught. Downside for Vagabonds this afternoon, they lost Mitch Wells early in the second half with a leg injury, I think. He was taken away to hospital, so hopefully best wishes to everybody for Mitch. But they also lost Archie Benson in the second half. He fell awkwardly in a tackle and may have just tweaked something around the knee. He didn't require hospital treatment immediately, so that's a positive step for him, but it looked very painful at the time. Couple of injuries like that with the schedule Vagabonds have coming up. Remember, they're playing every week now until April. There's no break for them, and two injuries like that, it could be problematical for them next week. And finally, we did have a friendly game at the Muirach Park. Southern Nomads and Ramsey. Southern Nomads picked that one up 34-31 in a high-scoring game. For Nomads, Tony Quinn went over twice. There are also tries from Finn McGregor, John Dutnall, Richard Seed and Mikey Crane. And Mark Young converted two. And for Ramsey, try scorers were Josh Catine, Jared May, Connor Goodall, Will Millsop and Sam Kenyuk, with Tom Moffat converting two and Scott Neal one.
OK, Dave, so just quickly turning to Vagabonds, they seem to be the story of the day, because after that wretched start to the season in County 3 Lancashire Cheshire of 9 straight defeats, just how much confidence will this give Francie Gamishes and his team going forward, getting a result like that over the line today?
Well, I was on the touchline. It was on the cricket square in between the two pitches there at Bella Fletcher. And I was joined by Stevie Gorn. Now, Stevie plays either in the centre or on the wing for Vagabonds. He's been out for much of the season. And we were analysing the game, and he asked me what I thought. And I said, well, it's kind of difficult. You've got a great front five who are giving go forward and solid set piece ball. You've got an excellent standoff in Daniel Bonwick. There's pace out in the wings. There's a bit of power in the centre. Cal Donnell is a great straight runner. John Riley and Cam Finley are there at the back. Finley's good with the boot, but they're just not scoring points. That's 10 games now, and they've scored 134 points. That's an average of 13 points a game, and that's not quite enough. Looking further up the table, in second place, De La Salle, they've played 10 games as well, and they've scored 300 points. So that kind of shows you where they're lacking. They're just not getting over the whitewash. No problems with that today, though. 4 tries. That's a try bonus point for them. Only their second try bonus point of the season. So they'll be mightily pleased with that. Orrell were ahead of them. If you remember, Orrell had won 2 games from their 11 going into this match today. And the only reason they're below Vagabonds in the table is they've had a 10-point deduction for rule infringements. So Orrell, in theory, were the better side going into this match. But at home today, no mercy from Vagabonds. Everything clicked for them. Only downside, a little red flag floating in there, is those injuries and how costly they may be going forward. But everybody in that squad today will have had a good pat on the back from Francie afterwards, and they'll be very confident going forward.
And just finally, Dave, turning to Douglas once again, it was always going to be a tough task on paper at the very least, up against the Sandbach team, not only top of the table, but also the top point scorers, excluding bonus points, by some considerable distance from the rest of the teams in Regional 2 Northwest at the moment. So, although Douglas haven't got any points on the board, do you think they'll be frustrated at not getting points on the board, or do you think they might take heart from the fact that they've kept the scoreline extremely respectable against the Sandbach team that have scored for fun at times?
Yeah. I think looking at that table, Rob, Douglas in 8th place. They've played one game less than Altrincham Kersal, so Douglas have got that game coming up. It's against Eccles and it's at Portashee. So I'm going to suggest if you put 5 points on there for that game, that'll take them up to 34, which is 6th place. And that's not too far away from 5th, because Burnage have only got 35. So I think Douglas are in a pretty good place. Yes, they'll be disappointed, but you're never going to take it too badly when you lose to the league leaders, particularly when you make sure that the league leaders don't pick up a try bonus point as well. I haven't had that much information from Phil Kringle this afternoon. He's obviously very busy with his coaching duties, but I suspect he's not going to be too bothered by that result. They'll pick themselves up and they'll be targeting Altrincham Kersal next week.
Dave Christian, thank you very much indeed.
Manx Radio Sport.
And finally tonight, the day marked the start of the 2025 Isle of Man men's and ladies hockey season on the Isle of Man. Fixtures scheduled across all 6 of the senior divisions, as well as the resumption of the mixed under-15s league. It wasn't completely straightforward though. All games today at Ramsey Grammar School had to be postponed due to the pitch being waterlogged up in the north of the island. But thanks to the efforts of everyone else across the island, other pitches were able to get themselves away from what has been torrid weather at times over the past few days. Plenty of games went ahead and plenty to talk about with our hockey correspondent Ben Cunningham. Ben, very good evening. Busy day for you.
Busy day indeed, yeah. Just a shame we lost everything in Ramsey, but I'm sure it's easy enough we can get it all rescheduled.
Yeah, we'll come to the postponements in a little bit. Before we actually get to the results themselves, actually, just on that point of the fact that, and we spoke with Tony about this from a football standpoint as well, the fact that those involved in Manx hockey were able to get the majority of games on today. I did see the pictures of people shoveling standing water off the pitch at the NSC in Douglas, for example, as well. A lot of hard work this morning just to get things going. Absolutely.
I mean, the effort this morning to get the 11 o'clock game going at the NSC, I saw it for myself. It was phenomenal by spectators. You know, there was parents getting involved. Give us a sweeping brush, we'll help, get involved. Just a good community vibe just to get games on, and thankfully that game did go ahead, even though it started a bit late. But yeah, I'm pleased to say most games all went ahead.
Very well. Excellent. Let's take a look at the Men's Premier League then, to start with 3 games there this weekend to kick things off. We'll start off with the defending Men's Premier League champions Vikings A. Won the Men's Premier League title last season for the first time in over 35 years, coming up against the Castletown A side, who've caused a few upsets over the last couple of years to some of the big names in this particular division. But Vikings A getting the job done on the opening day. They start their title defence with a victory, beating Castletown A at Castle Rushen High School by 3-0.
Yeah, and I'll be really happy with that result. John Cooper with 2 and Alex Birch with 1, giving Vikings the start they really want in their title defence.
And elsewhere, we had an intra-club derby, in fact, over in the west of the island in one of the 5-2 pushbacks in the Men's Premier League. QE2 and Peel saw Valkyries A taking on Valkyries B, and Valkyries A, as maybe some might have thought on paper, the A team getting the better of their B team by 5-0.
Yeah, and 5-0's not a huge loss, really, in a derby when you look at it. Valkyries B have really kept their A team at bay by just only letting them score 5. Michael Deal, Ollie Webster, Oscar Lace, Kieran Gell and Neil Jacobs for goals each for Valkyries A.
And in the other 5-2 pushback, so Backers A, who had the Premier League title ripped away from them last season, looking to make a statement up against Harlequins A. Backers A so dominant in the Men's Premier League over the last few years, and it was a dominant display from them today at the NSC in Douglas, beating Harlequins A by 9-1. Big statement from Backers A, Ben.
Yeah, big statement from Backers A there. Not the result that Harlequins would have wanted to start the season. Hat-trick for Andy Whiting, Chris Bass with a goal, Tom Lofen, George Harrison and Elliot Reid, all with goals each, and the consolation from Harlequins came from Tom Hurd.
And just before we move on to the Ladies Premier League, just looking at those three results in the Men's Premier League, you see Vikings A, Valkyries A and Backers A. Historically, over the last couple of seasons, let's say, three of the sides challenging toward the top. One thing that's noticeable is that looking at the goals, they've scored 17 goals scored between all three of them. Just the one conceded between all three of them. Both Valkyries A and Vikings A keeping clean sheets as well. So it's not just the goals at one end, it's how solid defensively they have been on this opening weekend at the other end.
Absolutely, yeah, and it could all come down to goal difference. We saw it in the mixed season, and it could happen again in the men's and ladies season. We'll wait and see.
Long way to go, I think
Absolutely.
It's fair to say.
Only the first weekend.
Indeed. Ladies Premier League, we did have 3 games planned in. However, one of those, the 12:35 game, Ramsey A versus Valkyries A, that was postponed today due to a waterlogged pitch, but nevertheless 2 other games went ahead. Let's start with the early pushback. Backers A against Harlequins A at the NSC in Douglas. Backers A winning this one by 4-2.
Yeah, and Harlequins did take the lead of this game, and yeah, it was really end-to-end from what I saw before I had to shoot off to get to King William's College. Sophie Hudson with a hat-trick and Sam Hassel with a goal for Backers A. And then for Harlequins, it was Ella Blakemore and Rachel Milton. But a good result there for Backers A.
And in the 2 pushback at King William's College, Vikings A, the defending Ladies Premier League champions, coming up against Castletown A, who, let's not forget, were Ladies Premier League champions back in 2023 and won the Ladies Cup last year as well. Well, Vikings A, bit of a shock from their side of things, but Castletown A, a fantastic result, beating Vikings A by 4-0.
Yeah, a great result for Castletown A. I umpired this game, and Castletown looked really strong going forward. And having seen both Backers, Harlequins, Vikings and Castletown today, obviously we haven't seen what Ramsey and Valkyries A have got this season so far. Castletown A are looking very strong, and they could be a team to watch in this league. Evie Watson with 2, Helena Allen with 1, and Amy Sellers with 1. It is worth, though, to note that for me, there was 2 people that stood out in this game, and that was the Vikings keeper. Her name was Poppy. I forget her last name, so apologies if you are listening. I'm really sorry for forgetting your last name. And then for Castletown, Abby Sutterby at the back. Absolutely phenomenal game by both of them.
And just speaking on Castletown A there, not just this result, for example, but last couple of years, they were the league champions season before last, and they took the Ladies' Cup last season as well. So consistently in and around the top of the ladies' game at the moment in the last couple of years as well, and a great start for them.
Yeah, definitely, and it's definitely the start that the new captain, Sarah Farrago, would have really wanted today, getting that 4-0 win over the current reigning champions. Still a long way to go, though.
Indeed there is. Let's move on to Men's Division 1. 2 of the 3 games went ahead. The game that was postponed from this division, the 5-2 pushback between Ramsey A and Vikings B, postponed due to the waterlogged pitch at Ramsey Grammar School today. The other 2 games that went ahead, 5-2 saw Backers C up against Castletown B at Castle Rushen High School, and this is a big statement from Castletown B as well. Been quite a few big statements on this opening weekend already. Absolutely. But Castletown B, what a ruthless performance in front of goal this is, beating Backers C by 12-2.
Yeah, and of course Backers C got the promotion from Division 2 last season up to Division 1, and today it's not been a good day at the office for them really. Christian Davies and Dan Stevens for Backers C, and then deep breath for this one. Castletown B's 12 goal scorers were Elliot Butler with 3, Dave Clark-Wilson with 2, Al Ledgers with 2, Richard Tarr with 1, Chris Stereopoulos with 1, Brian Ford Jones with 1, Paul Bolt with 1, and Ozen Dunn with 1.
And then elsewhere, Harlequins B faced Backers B at the NSC in Douglas, a battle of the B teams. A great result for Backers B, beating Harlequins B quite comprehensively by 7-0.
And unfortunately, that's all I can give you, because we have no Backers B goal scorers unless they've just come through, which they haven't.
But again, looking at Men's Division 1 compared to the Men's Premier League as well, 2 high-scoring sides as well, but between the 2 of them, only conceding 2 goals as well. It was a clean sheet for Backers B as well.
Yeah, of course, like we say, it could all come down to this goal difference. We saw it in the mixed season. It could happen again in the men's and ladies, but like we're saying, it's only the first weekend, still plenty of action still to go. But like as you've said, there are some big statements being made by some teams today.
Ladies Division 1 then, 3 games taking place today in Ladies Division 1. We'll start off actually, Ben, with the first of the 2 games you covered over at King William's College today. It was a Southern derby to open things up. Always good to see it when the intra-club derbies start to come around. Castletown D promoted into Ladies Division 1 last season, coming up against Castletown B side that were relegated from the ladies' top flight last season as well. So maybe a couple of people thinking, where could this possibly go, Ben? Some people might have thought the B team on paper at the very least would be the dominant side. They've proved to be today as well because they've beaten the D team by 6-0.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, the D team made a really good statement of themselves in this division. Of course, they got promoted up to this division last season, but against their B team, you would have favoured the B team. But they did give their B team a good battle, and credit to them, because they did have chances. They just could not find that final touch in the D. Castletown B, though, it was 4 goals for Kira Cooper, Gypsy May Quirk with 1, and Eden McCullum with 1.
And then elsewhere at 12:35 at QE2 was Backersby versus Valkeisby, a closer affair this one. Valkeisby just about coming out on top by 2-1.
And I did say yesterday night when we previewed this, I thought this was going to be a really close game, and it has lived up to it. For Backersby, it was Sharon Pope, and then for Valkeisby, it was Steph Cottier and Mazar Smith.
And the other game in Ladies Division 1 was a late pushback, 3:35pm, Castletown C versus Vikingsby at King William's College. Ben, have we had any update on that game far?
We have indeed, and it was a 4-0 win to Vikingsby. Danny Murphy with a hat-trick and Emily Stereopoulos with 1.
So there you go, Vikingsby coming out on top against Castletown C by 4-0 in the late pushback in Ladies Division 1 today. Men's Division 2, just the 2 games taking place today. The first was an early pushback at QE2 in Peel at 11:05. Bacchus Colts 1, Valkeis C 6.
Yeah, Valkeis C getting the win there. Chris Thomas with a hat-trick, Johnny Kane with 2, and Liam Harrison with 1. And then for Bacchus Colts, the consolation was Abe Maddox.
And the other game in Men's Division 2 is actually the first of the competitive games that we're seeing this season in the late evening slot. That pushback at 5pm, so that game is ongoing as we speak at the moment. Viking C versus Castletown C at King William's College. If we do have any updates going forward, we will of course let you know. Ladies Division 2, 3 games are scheduled today. The first of those, though, in the new early slot at Ramsey, 9:35am. Ramsey B versus Valkeis C, that was postponed due to the waterlogged pitch at Ramsey Grammar School. Nevertheless, 2 other games went ahead. 11:05 pushback at Castle Rushen High School. Viking C with a commanding 9-0 win over Castletown E.
Yeah, absolutely. Emily Gaylor with 4 and Joanna Roney with 5. So good result there for Viking C.
And at the NSC, the 12:35 game, Bacchus C and Harlequins B. Bacchus C, a good result for them here, beating Harlequins B by 6-1.
Yeah, Amara Corkill with 3, Alice Kameen with 3, and then the consolation for Harlequins B was Eleanor Hunter, which I believe is her first competitive senior goal.
Excellent. Well, although this saw the start of the 2025 Senior Leagues, this weekend saw the resumption of the Mixed Under-15s League, hotly contested over the past couple of seasons, and we saw exactly the same sort of thing during the mixed and indoor seasons, which took place between September and December. There were 3 games scheduled for today. 2 of those went ahead. One of those postponed was Ramsey Rogues and Rascals versus Backers, waterlogged pitch at Ramsey Grammar School. Elsewhere, 3:35 saw Valkeis take on Harlequins at QE2. Valkeis making a winning resumption to the season, beating Harlequins 4-1.
Yeah, Rhea Mayers with 2, Bethany Champel-Lee with 1, and Caleb Quayle with 1, and then the Harlequins goal scorer was Lucas Room.
And last but certainly not least, the other 3:35 pushback was at Castle Rushen High School. Vikings beating Castletown Sabres by 5-2.
Yeah, good result there for Vikings. Unfortunately, we haven't got the Castletown Sabres goal scorers, but Vikings goal scorers were Henry Stewart with 3 and Theo Roberts with 2.
Well, coming up to 5 minutes to 6, so just about starting to wrap things up here on Saturday Sport Classified. First of all, Ben, just to get your thoughts on a couple of things. First off, a bit of a formality. We did, of course, see those games called off at Ramsey Grammar School earlier today. So as it stands at the moment, how easy do you think it'll be to be able to fit those games in to the season, considering it's just started?
I think it'll be pretty easy. I think we've been lucky that it's happened on the first weekend, not midway through the season. The likelihood of the way that it'll probably get rescheduled will be that they'll probably have to give up possibly a training session slot just to fit it in. with the schedule that we've got coming up and all the cup fixtures as well to come in due course, fitting it in on a weekend's probably not going to happen, so it will be a midweek game probably. But it'll be down to the clubs to decide, and then also we'll have to check with pitch availability, because obviously the clubs do have access to them throughout the week, but only on their training slots, because obviously other sports use them throughout the week as well.
And of course, we do have the cup competitions starting up from next week as well. The first round of the respective competitions on the 18th of January.
Week after.
There you go.
Week ahead, Rob.
Haven't done this programme in a while. Cut me some slack, Ben.
I know, it feels nice being on this.
No, but they are coming up in the coming weeks. It's fair to say as well. So they're going to actually be starting fairly briskly with the league campaigns now underway. Now, one final thing I wanted to ask you about as well that some people might have noticed, and I sort of mentioned it before. There's been a little bit of a changes to the weekend schedules, whereby we've got 2 new slots available. One of them is an early morning pushback at 9:35 a.m. and the other is a later one at 5 p.m. What's been the thinking behind that?
Basically, with the amount of fixtures we've got to fit in, with the normal 11, 12:30, 2 o'clock and 3:30, we just can't all fit them in them slots. So we had to go out and look at what other availability we could get on a Saturday. King William's College said you can have a 5 o'clock slot there, and then Ramsey, of course, we can't have an 11 o'clock slot at Ramsey because there's a football club that train on the pitch there at 11 o'clock, so we can't take that slot. However, they did provide us with a 9:30 slot in Ramsey. Now, some people were a bit happy with it, some people weren't. Obviously, it's one of them where we've had to go, well, unfortunately, we're going to have to take it, because if we don't, then we're going to have to rearrange fixtures possibly to be played midweek. Or, worst of all, it could be another late game elsewhere. But so far, from what I've heard from people when I've been speaking to them today, I mean, I was at King William's College, people have said that the new format looks good and hopefully it'll live up to its name throughout the season.
And that brings me on to the fact that with 2 extra slots to fill each week, it's one thing that we cover not just in hockey but across all sports as well, is umpiring numbers. There are ongoing efforts throughout hockey season on season to get more people involved in officiating in the sport. And you've spoken before about the fact that hockey does seem to have quite a healthy number of umpires generally. There's a lot of games to cover on a weekend, I think it's fair to say, across the divisions. But with those couple of extra slots, does that have any effect on putting umpires into games, recruitment, in terms of making sure each game is fulfilled?
Well, just before Christmas, we had a umpires course take place. I'm pleased to say that near enough 20 new umpires have now took up doing some umpiring at the weekend. A few have made their debuts today. Lots of really good positive comments as well coming through, which has been great to see from the captains on the captains chat. Of course, there are a few more that haven't made their debuts today, but they will be next weekend. The umpires schedule is out already for next weekend. There's a lot of new names making their debuts. So, yeah, it's looking really good. But, of course, we do have a few senior, I'll put them as that, umpires, which will be looking at it and going, well, these new young umpires coming through, maybe we might be able to have a little bit of a breather as well and actually get to watch a game instead of being pulled aside to umpire. But looking really good.
And just very quickly on that, because we've only got a couple of moments here, but you are an example of this as well, that you can balance umpiring with playing as well. You don't have to give up playing.
No, absolutely. I mean, I've took the decision not to play the men's season this year, just down to a few other things I've got going on. But yeah, through the mixed season, it was a case of I was playing and umpiring.
Ben, thank you very much as always, and thank you for tuning in to Saturday Sport Classified here on Manx Radio AM 1368. We will now be rejoining Radio Caroline here, and don't forget, if you want to catch up with anything from this programme, it will be available as a podcast in the next hour or so. But from me until next time, have a great weekend, and goodbye for now.
Manx Radio Sport.